Hi folks, this is video 194. The title is The Wonderment of Space. I'm approaching my 75th birthday this fall, 2024. Looking back and through decisions, I've come to realize I was a daring but stupid kid in my middle school years. Apparently all boys and girls have the same problem to live through. Each generation has different issues or causes they pick up to be vocal about. Not all are good. In my time, there was the overshadow of nuclear war, but the space race was on. I sat on the back steps and watched Sputnik streak across the night sky. I received a mini observatory for Christmas. It was a blue and white metal base. There was a large flat disc mounted on it at an angle. On the disc were all the constellations laid out in a circle. Using the included compass, the base had to be set to north. It was easy in those days. The North Star was, and still is, directly over the neighbor's silo across our little valley. Also included was a deck of dark blue cards with a mounting clip that clamped to a 75 power telescope mounted on a shaft growing up vertically from the center of the angled labeled disc. You would rotate the scope and an indicator would point at the various constellations on the disc. The blue cards each showed a constellation and listed the angle needed to adjust the scope. This way, the proper angle and declination to view the constellation on the card and disc was instantly set up. I was obsessed with everything space. In a way, I still am. I try not to miss a rocket launch, any launch. NASA, SpaceX, UAL, Japan, China, India, Russia. Personally, I think NASA should have thrown in the towel when SpaceX had two heavy lifter boosters find their way back to the Cape and extend their legs. Both landed back at the launch site. At this point, that has been accomplished about 270 times. I was a member of the Planetary Society for a number of years. I haven't been for a while now. But when I was, NASA would attach a CD to every spacecraft. On these discs were the names of all the members of the Planetary Society. A large number of members were and are spacecraft engineers, donators, and interested folks like me. My name's on 9 craft, to include Spirit and Opportunity rovers. At this point, I've had 4 women in my life. I married 2. I told each of them that if I get a chance to go to Mars, they had a choice. Either pack a bag and go with me, or wait until I get back. If the politicians stayed out of the way, we would have been established on Mars at least 30 years ago. Like the saying goes, when there is light at the end of the tunnel, some politician always buys more tunnel. There was a time when I considered purchasing a large Meade bucket scope, at least a 10-inch diameter, but a 14 if I could swing it. It would be computer controlled. To keep it acclimated, it should stay outside. Therefore, I also looked up an observation dome for the backyard. They can be electronically connected to the computer too. They could be manually positioned, but the controlled style had a bull ring and a servo motor. When the compass readings and the scope declination is entered, The dome rotates to keep the vertical doors in line with the auto-rotating scope. A sweet setup for sure. As they say, life happens when you have other plans. I never got close to getting my scope. Our kids might see it, but our grandchildren and great-grandchildren surely will see humans on Mars. The little Mars helicopter was only supposed to last a few months and make maybe 20 flights. Today it was announced that the little copter had a blade damage and can no longer fly. It has been on Mars 3 years and flown 72 exploratory missions, all in a 1% atmosphere. Wow. I made a few rockets when I was young. You could order one from the advertisements on the back of the Superman comic books. I had one that had a heavy white rocket core with red fins and a nose cone. It came with 2 or 3 engines. They were 1/4-inch thick walled hollow cardboard tubes filled with some kind of propellant. It was only about 15 or maybe 18 inches high. It was a straw glued to the side. The straw slid over a wire jammed into the ground. That was the launch tower. There was a 3-inch fuse sticking out of the engine. You just lit it and ran to a safe distance. The rocket would go up about 1,000 feet. The cone popped out and a little parachute opened and it floated back down. I found out what the propellant was and purchased it for $2 a pound. My rockets were made from the heavy weight poster board we used for school projects. The board was rolled into a cone about 30 inches long. The bottom was trimmed to be flat. Using a wooden stick, I compacted the fuel in tightly. Next, cut a circle of cardboard for a base plug. The cardboard plug had a hole punched in the center. I next took some tissue and twisted it into a string and inserted it into the plug hole. That was the fuse. Lunchtime at school, I would take a rocket outside to the play area. The school had sawhorses that were built with a slope to interlock with our stage assembly used for graduation and plays. That angle worked fine to launch my homemade rockets. I laid a rocket on the sloped board and lit the fuse. My rockets probably flew close to a mile. They went up and at an angle over Huffer's Hill and out of sight. That is, except for the last one. Whoops. The upper wind caught it, turned it around, and it came back. Just like the dummies in the movies who run right down the middle of the road when being chased by a car, I ran straight away from that incoming rocket. I had to stop as I reached the building. The remainder of my rocket landed between my feet and burned its last while removing the polish off my left shoe. Of course, the future of space travel will be accomplished by private companies. SpaceX is the leader now. There is a company called Sierra Space. The link is sierraspace.com. You will be amazed at what they are developing. I hope the stupid people who keep electing extremely stupid politicians wake up soon. Maybe then we can get to the moon and Mars. Well, folks, this concludes my story about the wonderments of space, at least how they are wonders to me. I'd love to see what my great-grandkids are going to be seeing. My first is due around the 1st of May. Right now his name is the Bump. Anyway, hang on, spring is coming pretty soon. So, as always, I wish everyone all the best.